It's about the only clear access, so I'm going to try it in there. Hi, and thanks for joining me. Finally made it through all those briar patches to a little 5 by 7 foot clearing beside this stream. And this outing's theme is water. Water is the source for food, so I'll do some fishing. And water is a source for hydration. But as you can imagine, this water is not suitable for drinking as it is. Dogs play in it about, quarter of a mile from here where the trail crosses it. Just up from there, there are at least 3 kinds of livestock: goats, horses, cattle. Beyond that are some light industry and a little bit of agriculture, and beyond that is all agriculture. So there's runoff, there's contaminants. There's every reason to believe that this water, as is, would make you very sick. So stay with me and we're going to see how to deal with that. This is one of the ways I'm going to filter the water. You saw this in an earlier sowing video if you watched it. It's number 10 cotton duck I've sewn up in the shape of a Christmas stocking, imitating what I saw a picture of called a millbank bag. And that made it click for me that back in the late 40s we were driving through some desert out west. I was obviously a little kid, and strapped on the front of the car in front of the grill was a canvas bag with a little screw top in the corner, and of course the water evaporated through it as we drove, which helped cool the engine. However, it also gave us a source of clean, cold water. So I thought I'd give the cotton duck a try. Before we talk about filtering, I want to show you one of the other uses of it, which is just carrying water. Now, as you can see, there's a little bit of dripping, and most of that is runoff from the outside. So if you had to, you could carry water from a stream to where you're going to filter it right in this bag. Now, so you can compare, this is the water straight out of the creek. I don't know if you can get a good view of that. It's cloudy enough that you could not read through it. So there you see the water in the bag, and it's tied on a limb so it can drip, which you can see it's starting to do. 2 things you need to know about using this. The first is that you have to thoroughly saturate the bag in the creek before you fill it with water. Otherwise, it'll take forever for those drips to start. The second thing is that the water is up to here, and you have to let about 1/4 to 1/3 of it drip out before you start collecting it for use. And that's so that the worst of the pollutants that might be on your bag and in the water have a chance to be dispersed before you put them in your cup. So I'm going to let that soak. I'm going to let that drip out for a little. And I'm also going to use the bandana so we can compare filtering through this and filtering through a bandana. This is a bandana I sewed, and of course I always carry the ever-present safety pin with it. I've modified this by sewing sleeves along the edge so I can run paracord through there for something like this. I'll do a separate video on the bandana later. So we'll use this for straining water too, and see how that shows up. Okay, here's the water, quite cloudy as you can see, straight out of the stream. Here's the water, filtered only through a bandana. Much clearer, almost completely clear. Here is an example of the kind of residue that's left when filtering through a bandana. And there's a bobber out there right on the edge of a little hole. This is a low percentage fishing area, but while I'm waiting, why not? As you can see, I have about a cup there and it's been dripping for about a half an hour. So this is not a fast process. Ooh. Time to check the bobber and check the water to see if we can make some hot cocoa. So now let's compare. This is the water straight out of the creek. See if I can. On the right is the water from the millbank bag, and on my left is the water through a bandana. They look similar, and I don't know if it shows up on the camera or not, but the millbank bag is noticeably clearer. So that's the water I'll be using. Now, just out of curiosity, I brought a coffee filter along. I put that in my glacier cup, and I'm going to pour the bandana filtered water through it and see if it comes out as clear as the millbank bag water. Okay, again, this is, on the left is bandana filtered, then poured through a coffee filter. On the right is filtered only through the millbank bag. They're very close, but I would say the clarity prize goes to the millbank bag. However, if I didn't have it, I would probably have no hesitation about drinking bandana filtered and then poured through a coffee filter water, after it had been boiled, of course. Okay, I emptied the millbank bag, hung it upside down to dry, and now I have just begun boiling the water. We're under open fire restriction here, so I'm going to use the stove and use that bandana as a windbreaker. That is definitely a rolling boil. So by now, all the protozoa, cysts, viruses, and bacteria that are invisible and who could do me in have presumably been killed. So let's have some hot chocolate. Handy little spoon or spork. Use the little pot grabber to grab the pot. Put it in its insulating sleeve. And I'm ready to go. By the way, a thing I forgot to mention, coffee filters are handy not only for filtering, but they're actually a very good pot scrubber. They don't fall apart, and they enable you to get all that goopy stuff out of your pot, so you can pour in some boiling water and get it a little bit sterile. Just thought I'd mention that. They weigh nothing, and they're probably even reusable. If you dry them out, maybe they'd make good tinder. Well, been out here about 4 hours, so it's time to start working my way back through the marsh. Just a quick view so you can see what the area is like that I'm in. The lessons learned out of this one is the thing I call a millbank bag, because it looks like the picture of a millbank bag I saw, is number 10 cotton duck, and it worked really well as a water filter. As we all know, filtering water doesn't get rid of the microscopic things that cause you problems, and that's why the boiling has to be done. I suppose I could buy and use a mechanical filter. I've never done that, and because I've never trusted them, but maybe I'll step into the 21st century. Good time to get going because it's late after work and people are coming out and my battery is going. I see the flashing light. So anyway, thanks for being with me on this trip, and see you on down the trail.